Hello, my name is Dan Tran, and this is going to be a video put together just to explain how we do advising in schools and give some advice on how future hires might be able to best advise in schools. My name is Dan Tran, and I advise in Jackson High School and Springport High School. Mary?
My name is Mary Stanley. I'm also a college and career advisor along with the office coordinator, and I advise in Columbia Central, East Jackson, and Hanover Horton.
Travis?
My name is Travis Miller. I'm just a college and career advisor at Western, Grass Lake, and Vandercook Lake.
Sydney?
My name is Sydney Brown. I am also a college and career advisor, and I advise for Concord, Northwest, and Da Vinci.
And Brian?
My name is Brian Greed. I'm a college and career advisor. I'm also the marketing specialist for College and Career Access Center. I advise at Michigan Center and Napoleon.
And of course, last but not least, our fearless leader, Nancy.
Hello, my name is Nancy Peters Lewis, and I'm the executive director of the College and Career Access Center, along with this amazing team. And I was a college and career advisor for 4 years at Grass Lake High School and 5 years at Concord High School. And previous to that, my time here at the College and Career Access Center, I was the College Access Network coordinator in Albion, where we had college advisors who worked on that team as well.
Excellent. And so the first question we're going to be talking about today is tell me about advising in schools. I'll go ahead and just start out. I advise in Springport, which is a smaller rural school. And, just working with the students to get them on their best path, be that college or career. We spend about a day and a half in Springport schools. That's how the pattern works for most of our other schools as well. And Jackson High is a more of an urban, larger school. So they're really kind of two different schools, but the standard technique is the same, just calling students down, asking them what their goals are, and then working through them with either our 4 seasons or our 5 frontiers. And then also it would be, and just the format is pretty general, just call students down. But during the pandemic, we had to pivot to a phone, email, and texting and utilizing Zoom to do our meetings with the students. So that's just kind of a broad overview. Mary, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so in my 3 schools that I advise in, they're all very different as well. Whether they're small or large, the advising really depends on how our counselors want us to do it and how we can coordinate with the teachers and when to take students out. So at East Jackson, I really have the ability to pull students out all day, whenever, as long as it's an elective class. Whereas Columbia Central, I only have the option to take seniors out during their senior transition class. And Hanover, I provide a list to their secretary and she just pulls students at her leisure.
Very good. Travis, any extra input you'd like to add?
My 3 schools, 2 of them are pretty similar in the way that we do the advising. First semester, I do a lot of collaboration with a teacher at Grass Lake. It's within their senior trans class. So it's all structured within that. Makes my life relatively easy because it's just working with Mrs. Morris on the things that she needs to be working on. Western, it's done through their English classes. They make the whole month of October within the English class focused on college preparation or career preparation, depending on what their focus is. And my main job within those 2 schools for the first semester is really just helping facilitate within those classes, within group presentations. And then the meeting with students is pretty much, I can meet with whoever I want with, as long as the teacher is able to meet with them. The pandemic has made it a little bit challenging, but in a normal year, I pretty much have no pushback unless they're test prepping or doing a test, things like that. And after first hour, you kind of have an idea of what the classes are going on. Vandercook, they've pretty much give me the ability to do what I want when I want, just on an individual basis. So if a student is available to meet with me, I call them down to my office and we meet mostly on a one-on-one basis. So
Awesome. Thank you. Sydney?
So all three of my schools are pretty different. So starting with the biggest one being Northwest, I have a central office located in the library, and I call students down whoever I want. I can pretty much call into any class. I try not to do the AP classes, but I have pulled them out of AP classes. Um, I also go into their class called the Senior Forum. It's run by one of the teachers, and sometimes they have blocked hours. So second and third hour will be Senior Forum, and I'll just go into that class and sit there and just rotate students meeting with me. And that they're on trimesters, so that's during second trimester typically. I'll just take 2 hours of the day to go down and sit in that classroom, but otherwise I'm calling students down, and a lot of times they'll come and find me. In Concord, it's different right now because of the pandemic, obviously, and also because they have a new counselor. But normally it would be that me and the counselor sit down, we plan out our week and the day and a half that I'm going to be there. So at the beginning of the long day that I have, we sit down and we say, these are the students that we need to get stuff done with. We will do a calendar invite for each of us, so we know which student we're going to go pull when. And the counselor would usually go pull those students for me, or just tell me you can walk down and get them. But we have to check with the teachers first. In Da Vinci, I kind of act mainly as their actual counselor when it comes to college and career stuff. So I have free run of the school. I will literally just walk to their classes and go get them. Anything that has to do with scholarships gets put on my desk in my office. Anything that has to do with FAFSA or really anything college or career related, kind of those questions go to me. So I have a lot of freedom with those, with Da Vinci, with all of my schools really, but especially with Da Vinci.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I have been advising the longest out of this group, aside from Nancy, of course. But this is my 6th year of advising, so I have been in Jackson High, Michigan Center, Da Vinci, Napoleon. I've been in a number of schools all across the spectrum of what you guys are talking about in terms of size and accessibility of students. And in a general, I would say I agree with everything that's been said. In a general sense, if you are advising, one of the keys is developing that rapport and that relationship with your point people at the school, the counselors, the teachers, and you have the most effective advising when you have that ability to go into the classrooms and present, when you can do workshops, when there's a familiarity and a presence, when students, even if they haven't met you yet, come in and say, I've seen you around, I've seen you in classrooms, I've seen you in the hallway, I know who you are. I have people who've talked to me about what you do. That makes advising a lot easier. So as important as it is to have access to the students, it's also important to build those relationships that are going to bridge you with the principal, the superintendent, the teachers, the counselors, and the students. So you become part of their school. One of the best compliments I ever received was at Michigan Center when the principal, Lisa Velasco, said, "You're like part of the family, Brian. We've come to expect you here. We don't want to lose you as we restructure and change advising and change where we are and who we see. It's really nice to feel like you're a part of what they do."
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Nancy, would you like to add?
Sure. I would piggyback on what Brian was articulating. And I look at it from a couple different perspectives. It's a pretty broad question about advising in schools. And I love how each of the advisors outlined pretty much their direct service pieces, the direct practical pieces of advising in terms of accessibility with the students and really what the infrastructure looks like. I would probably expand on that view in terms of just looking at it from a bird's eye view perspective, and saying that if you're going in as an advisor, there's a couple things that you'll want to do in terms of advising in your schools. The first thing I think that Brian hit on is really establishing really good relationships, which we already have an infrastructure created for you when you come in as a college and career advisor, in terms of we've been in the schools now for 8 years. We've been in the schools for 8 years. Wow. And so the infrastructure is there. It's really about developing those relationships, as Brian suggested, with the principal, the counselor, working hand in hand to really reach the goals of being a college and career advisor, which is expansive. But the primary goal is that you're assisting seniors with their post-secondary plans. So not only are you helping them to create a plan, either with what we call the 4 seasons or the 5 career frontiers. The 4 seasons are applications, FAFSA, scholarships, and decision time. And the 5 frontiers are a career assessment, cover letters, resumes, soft skills, interview skills, job shadowing, or job search support. And so whether you're doing one of those practical pieces with a student, the overall goal is to assist that student in not only creating that plan, but in carrying that plan out, which takes a lot of time. You know, you can sit down with a student and the student can say, oh, I've got that done, or this is what I'm going to do. But until you really actually sit down and say, okay, let's go through this step by step and process this and ensure that not only do you have a plan, but that you carry the plan out. That's what advising in its true direct service approach. Now, in terms of advising in the school overall, the bigger umbrella goal is assisting in creating a college and career going culture, which is challenging if we're only in each school district for a day and a half. So it's very key that relationship building and the planning that takes place and the continued communication that takes place by you as the advisor, that's what's key. So you have, on one hand, you have advising directly with students, but on the other hand, you really have your own little microcosm, well, we can just say business going on, where you're actually communicating with your students and families. You're communicating with your stakeholders at the district, and you're trying to market the college and career going pieces in a way where it's embedded in the system of the high school, so that when you leave and someone comes in, that system's already set up for that new advisor to come in and take over and really build upon what you've left as a college and career going legacy.
Awesome. Thank you. Everyone, does anyone have any additional information they'd like to add before we move on? So with this next one, I just think that it makes more sense to piggyback the 2 questions together: obstacles you faced and resources or methods you've used to overcome them. So one of the obstacles that I faced is just in, 2 of the schools that I'm in, Jackson High and Springport. They have someone there full-time who does what I do and works with the students. And then also there's a counselor who in some schools has some other, not so much responsibility, but input or works with the students and different things. So I just think that the obstacle there is working with students on things more than once, pulling them out of the class for the same thing. And the method that I've used to overcome this is just constant communication, just letting whoever your cohorts or not cohorts, but whoever's working with you at the school know what you've done with what students, just so it's the most efficient and streamlined that it can be. It was just one obstacle, and then the resource is communication to overcome that. Mary?
Yeah, so some obstacles I've overcome go with no obstacles with my point person in particular, but with pulling students out of certain classes. You really have to know what classes you can pull students out of. Really try to be flexible to the teacher's schedule and their lessons planning, to do presentations to make sure you're able to get in there still. And sometimes those happen to be very difficult just due to the scheduling conflict with other teachers. Another thing is some obstacles would be meeting with students who don't want to talk to you. You'll have students who come in who, I don't need you, I don't want your help, I don't want to go to college, I don't need this, why am I even here? So just making sure that when you do get that pushback, that you you're not an authoritative figure. You don't need to be stern with them. Just be more open to saying, I understand that you don't need me, but I want to make sure that you're ready for the pathway that you do want to go down. So if they are going into the career or workforce, just be like, well, I'm here for you to make sure that your resume is good, that you have interview skills to excel in the job that you either want or already have. So don't shut them down for what they want to do.
Excellent input. Excellent. Thank you. Travis?
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of obstacles is getting the parents to do their part for things. So some of the stuff we do, specifically the FAFSA, is going to require the parents to do some things, and just getting them to understand why it's important. Well, my student's not going to qualify for it. Why are we doing it? And just being like prepared to talk about things like, oh, scholarships and like the institutional aid, and just kind of having like more knowledge than like the basic stuff to be able to kind of address what their concerns are. Because a lot of times when they are like, we don't want to do this, they have a reason why they don't want to do it. So just being able to kind of change their opinion on it, especially since 2 of my schools, there's a grade requirement for it, for some of this stuff. And for some reason, that's not enough reason for them to do it. So just being prepared to answer those things. And then I would say trying to find a balance between meeting with the students who are kind of like what Mary was saying, like you'll have a group of students that want to have you look at everything. I got my college applications done. Can you look at it before I get it done, before I submit it? Here's my scholarship stuff. Can you take a look at it before I submit it? And then the students who aren't going to reach out to you at all, just trying to find the balance between, okay, these students want to meet with me and I've already met with them, and I haven't met with these students. So where do you draw the line? Well, I don't like telling a student I don't want to meet with them, but if I had already planned on, it's just trying to find that balance. And then kind of to piggyback off of Mary, knowing what teachers are going to be more willing to let students out. So if you call down to Mr. Smith's class at first period and it's AP chemistry, he's probably not going to let his students out. And you learn that as you go throughout the year. So just learning those things as you go, I think, is an obstacle, but can be overcome.
Very good. Very good. Sydney?
I would say, like with the advising question, it's very broad to think about the obstacles that we face. So there are a number of different obstacles that you can kind of compartmentalize. We work through them all, but there's the structural stuff of a lot of us have 3 schools. A lot of the schools are different sizes and require all different types of advising. We're only in each school a day and a half a week, and there are a number of other things like FAFSA nights and college fairs or any extra stuff that they ask us to do, are things like FAFSA nights, which are part of our job that we have to take into consideration. So they're not so much, I guess the obstacle there would be being organized and just having to constantly balance your 3 schools. And the size of each school, and the fact that it's equal because you are spending a day and a half in each school, but it takes me longer to get through Northwest, get through the whole senior list than it does for me to get through Da Vinci. Like right now, at this right particular moment, there are only 3 kids from Da Vinci that I have not actually had contact with, whereas there's like 70 kids from Northwest that I have not had contact with. So it's just kind of understanding that where that balance lies, and having to, what kind of effort and how you're maximizing your time at each place, and how that's going to affect students differently. And then along with that, the structural stuff, there's also the stuff that Mary and Travis were really explaining, like the communication with point people, the communication to students. You are going to get parents who don't want to help their student at all, who don't want to be told that the FAFSA is valid and it can help their student with this. They don't want to do anything with it. You're going to have students who don't want to talk to you. You're going to have counselors who don't answer your emails or who are kind of wary of you. me coming into Concord after Nancy being the advisor for Concord for so long. The advisor and I, by the end of the year, had a fantastic relationship. But in the beginning, she was a little bit wary of me because I was a new advisor and she didn't know me. So there's a lot of different obstacles. And I just think for me, what I have learned in my almost 2 years here is that a great deal of organization and a great deal of communication is the best methods of overcoming those obstacles. The more organized you are, the easier it's going to be able to deal with those obstacles as they come up, to plan for these things as they come up, to have your time be meaningful when things come up. So I think those are the main obstacles that I faced, and being hyper vigilant and hyper organized and focused is what has helped me with that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Brian?
Again, I'm in agreement with everything that everybody has said, all valid points. And I think when I listen to everybody speak and try to come up with my angle of the greatest obstacle or the many obstacles, I think an obstacle we face every day is a limited amount of time to make the impact that we make. And I think we, as an organization, make a tremendous impact given the short amount of time that we have within the schools and with these students. And to Mary's point and to Sydney's point, when somebody doesn't wish to speak to you, just being an effective listener, being able to build a rapport quickly, because you have 15 to 30 minutes sometimes to meet with a student who's never met you before. And in that time, you have to have a fruitful conversation, complete some tasks, and inspire them in some way to make them feel like value's been added and they want to develop a relationship with you. So often it's a matter in my mind of, in that initial meeting, I want to inspire you to come into the center and sit down where we have more time and we can address many questions. And when students actually come into the center, we've got them and they keep coming back and they return to us even after they're done with high school and well into their college years. They keep coming back because of that relationship that we've been able to forge with them. And I think a lot of that is just being an effective communicator, a good listener, and some of the tools and the development that we've put in terms of awareness have been very beneficial in looking at students in a different way, realizing their unique situation, their home dynamic, their cultural background, and listening to them in a way that gives you the key to what it is by way of communication that they need to be able to begin that relationship, that working relationship with you. It's easy to think this student doesn't want to talk to me. And we don't always think maybe this student is hungry. Maybe this student doesn't have a place to sleep. Maybe this student has a lot of tension at home, a lot of stress, a lot of dysfunction within the household that's making it more difficult to get through to them and to have this connection. So I would say one of the biggest obstacles is finding that balance of the time and the right connection and the right message to begin the steps of that relationship.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian.
You guys are making me miss being an advisor when we're talking about this, because it's taking me back to the actual advising obstacles. And I would say, I would actually put it into probably 4 different categories when I think of obstacles, when you think of obstacles, you think of opportunity too. You know, obstacles, you don't have to think of them as a bad thing. They're really an opportunity to create improvement. And so I think of 4 different silos when I was an advisor. I think of myself in terms of my own time management and prioritization when I'm in the job. Meaning what we need to do within our own infrastructure that we've created from the College and Career Access Center's point of view. And that includes our data tracking and making sure that we're very familiar with what our goals are, making sure we're familiar with where we're at any given time in reaching those goals. So really yourself and being informed and prioritizing and using time management to really be able to say, okay, I'm aware of what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, and I know what I have to do at each and every day, at the end of every day, at the end of every week, at the end of every month. So really being aware of that. So self, I would say, is number one obstacle. Just making sure that you're organized, as Sydney said, and you're able to really get a hold of what you're supposed to be doing in the school districts when you're in there, and being intentional with the students to get that done, because it really is for the students. And then number two, I would say, another obstacle or challenge that you're going to find as an advisor is your staff, the staff that you're dealing with. And that includes the teachers, who would be what, we call a point of entry or a point of contact, a classroom connector. You could call it a classroom connector, and it would be your counselors and your principals and your superintendent. So you have that area that can be an obstacle. And we've come a long way. We've created lots of capacity in all of our school districts with our amazing advisors. But it can be an obstacle when you go into a new school. And I think Sydney pointed to this, she went into a new school, and we'd love to retain our advisors for 3 to 5 years. If we retain them for 2, there might be some turnover and you'll be new. And most advisors, if this goes out to anyone, another advising corps at some point, most advisors for the advising corps are only in there for 2 years. So getting in and creating those relationships that we talked about in the first question, really getting in and making yourself transparent, making yourself known, becoming a part of staff meetings, going into the lunchroom, eating lunch with the staff. Those are some of the things that I did to try to create some fellowships, some networking opportunities while you're at the school. So I would say that's the second area that can be an obstacle. The third area that can be an obstacle are your students, which I think everybody's really pointed to. And Mary, you talked about that, about having sometimes students that are just like, I don't even want to talk to you. I don't even know why I'm here. And really trying to bring them through so that they can be side by side with you, working on their plan, what they're going to do after high school, and how you do that is really based on your communication and your rapport with students. And then the fourth thing I would say is workshop/project management, your own workshop and project management. One of the pieces, or there's 2 main pathways that we use to connect with students. The first one is the one-on-one consultations, and the second one is workshops. So we provide jam sessions or workshops, whatever you'd like to call them, but basically we provide an overview in classroom environments of the 4 seasons and the 5 frontiers. That's one of our goals, is to be able to get in classroom and get things done in the classroom. And then when we follow up with them one-on-one, we've already talked with them about it, they've already met us. So I think managing the workshops, and then we also have some other initiatives that the advisors are involved in with our 8th grade program and on our 11th grade program. So managing that time to make sure that they're able to do that. And then one other piece that comes in that 4th silo of obstacles is we have state initiatives that come down that we have to try to market within our school districts, which really correlate and align with what we do already. So it's not a big jump. There's total cross-pollination, but really being able to manage that 4th silo of workshop and project management. So I think that those are the 4 kind of silos that I would put obstacles in as an advisor, but all opportunity and all able to enhance your job once you're able to get a hold of all those and really enhance those areas.
Wow, thank you, everyone. Great information, a lot of extensive input, and I appreciate it. This next question, what is the most important thing about working as an advisor in your schools? I personally think it's just meeting the students as they are, doing your best not to allow preconceived notions about them. I had an opportunity to work with students from all 13 schools who had all been expelled. And I know it was really, I wouldn't say important, but something that I enjoyed about it was not even knowing why they were expelled, just treating them in that moment as a student who wanted to return to school and doing the best that I could to support them on their path. So I think that it's just important to meet the students in the moment and try and avoid preconceived thoughts or opinions. So that's something that I really think is important. Mary, you are muted.
Thank you. I can't really say that one thing's more important than the other in this question, because in retrospect, every little thing that we do once we're in the schools and out of the schools is very important. And we need all those things to make sure that our students are successful in what they want to do with their post-secondary education or career training. So if I would nail it down to like most important, would be my relationship with students in advising. And then I would have to say like right under that is communicating with my point people, because those two things are very big key factors into the success of our students.
Excellent, excellent. And just a clarification point on the question, if it's things that you have, important things about working as an advisor, please share those just as Mary did. Don't have to limit yourself to one. Travis?
I agree with kind of what Dan was saying, and meeting the students where they need to be met is really important. Not just assuming that they're all going to be the same, or that it's just within the first 5 minutes, really just trying to figure out where they are, and then figuring out how I can assist them at the point that they're at. And then the other thing that I've found to be really helpful, and it's figuring out who the people at the school are that are going to support the work that I'm trying to do. So at Western, for example, the English teachers are really, really important, because all of the stuff that we do for that first semester are within their class. So developing that relationship, talking to them about the things that I want to get done, and why we want to do it. Because I'm only there a day and a half, the students can't come to me every single day and say, I'm having issues with this, and not expecting them to be able to find solutions for all of it. But if it's something simple, a lot of times they can answer it really quickly. But if it's something that needs to be like have a little bit more done, they put that problem kind of in front of me, like, hey, this student came to me and they have questions. Or I've had a number of students that are having issues with scholarships. Can you get that? Can you make a new video or whatever? So developing that relationship with the people at the school has been super beneficial. So.
Thank you. Very good. Sydney?
I would just have to agree with Mary and Travis. And I think when meeting a student where they're at in terms of their future goals, obviously the crux of our job, but then also just when you see how a student who like just becomes more comfortable with you and opens up with you when you're just like, how is your day? Or I will definitely use a different name for you if you want me to, or I'll use different pronouns for you if you want me to, because I want you to feel comfortable enough to talk to me. And I've seen really good results with just students and parents. When you just say like, I want to do whatever you want to do, and I'm not going to make you do something else. And just to know that, you know, I'm a college and career advisor. I'm not going to make you go to college or do a career that you don't want to do. I want to know what you want to do, and we'll work towards it. And, you know, for some students, it takes longer for them to understand that. But once they do, it's really nice, the tunnel of communication that kind of opens up. And yeah, the relationship with point people has been crucial for me. I mean, going into Concord, like I said, the counselor was a bit wary of me. By the middle to end of the year, there were days where I was in the building and she wasn't. There was just, I mean, she just said, go pull whoever you want. I'm not going to be here today. And which is not something that I think that I ever thought that I would get to at Concord. And at Northwest, I can go hang out with the senior forum teacher. They have a career prep coordinator along with a counselor. So I have a very good working relationship with her. And, you know, in our planning meetings this past year, a lot of times it was just getting on that Zoom call and them saying, what do you need from me? Just tell me what you want to do and we'll do it. And so you get to have that freedom to really say, this is what I want to do, you know, branch out and say, you know, what would be really cool, would be really effective is if we did it this way and we did this. And once you build that relationship, you get people on board with you who want to make it happen for you. So I would definitely say the relationship with teachers, with counselors, with coaches, and with like office staff, with secretaries, with librarians, anybody who's in the school who's going to be in your corner and help you, who has access to a phone and can call down a student. I had another teacher at Northwest who would just go walk down and get them if they were in gym class. He'd pull them out of gym class for me. So those relationships are really great, and just listening to your students has also been one of the most important things. And I think it has also been one of the most fulfilling things about this position, is when you get to really help a student with something that they actually want to do, and you get past they're just telling you what you want to hear stage.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that. Brian?
In terms of important, reading that question just at face value and trying to think of what is most important to me. And I've been here, like I said, 6 years. So from the beginning, I saw that people didn't exactly have an impression of who we are within the community, our stakeholders, even the schools themselves. And so as an organization, I always think it's important that when we go into the school, we are a reflection of the CCAC and who we are and what we do. And when you go into an environment and you are that face that they see, just bringing a positive energy, bringing a motivational spirit, coming in with just the attitude that says, I'm here to add value and to help you, to help your students. My grandfather, when I was very small, said to me one time, he was in the military. And so he had this very regimented mind. And he said, wherever you go in life, whatever you do, wherever you go, when you leave, people should be glad you were there. And I think of that when I meet a student. I want them to be glad that, wow, I met this person and he helped me and he did this. And we developed this relationship where I don't know where I would be if this opportunity hadn't come along. And I've received just a few emails from students and a few messages and a few letters from students over the years that have said, one student said, I came in my senior year and I thought this is going to be the scariest year of my life. And you just made it such a good year for me. And to have that sort of impact, to add that sort of value, that to me is one of the most important things that we do, that we go in and when we leave, they're glad we were there.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Nancy?
So this is a good question, as along all these other questions that you've asked are great for conversation starters. And I think that I would agree with what everyone has said. And I would probably say that there's three really important areas in terms of working as a college and career advisor that kind of define what everyone is speaking to, which would be communication, that relationship building that we've been talking about with the staff and the students. That's key in order to really get the goal met of supporting them with their post-secondary plans, the students, and building that college and career going culture. And then planning. I cannot say enough about planning. We do a really good job within the College and Career Access Center internally of laying out what the school year should look like so that we know when we're supposed to hit this and when we're supposed to hit this and when we're supposed to hit this. So internally, we do a really good job of that. But it's really up to the advisor to take those pieces and create a plan that they can then transmit to their stakeholders at their schools to really create that college and career going culture. So planning, which we've given the pieces of the plan, and then articulating that plan through that communication channel to the students and families and the stakeholders. So I would say communication and planning are the biggest and most important things about working as a college and career advisors, because when you have the planning in place organizationally, and you have the year laid out, which then lays out your months, which then lays out your weeks, which then lays out your day, and you have the communication in place, then those two come together to assist in creating that college and career going culture, which really is our end product, which is assisting that student with their post-secondary plans and meeting those goals that we have together, that we know that will help them succeed. So I would say that it's everything everyone said, kind of under those two silos or two umbrellas, in a broad picture frame.
Definitely. Great input from everyone again. This last question, what are you doing, have you done to help the college going culture to grow at your schools? I know the kind of like to answer this more broadly is just to be aware that while we exist as advisors here in the county of Jackson, there is a network above us and a network above that and a network above that that are working to do the same thing. So just to be aware of the local college access networks, the Michigan College Access Network, and then the national one, just to see what sort of initiatives they're doing to increase the college going culture. I know that at my schools, we've signed up for a college bound program, and it just uses swag as well as goals that the school, if they meet, get awards. So it's just a way to encourage the college going culture to foster at your schools, but it's already in place. So it's just something you would have to sign up for, as opposed to implementing it fresh from the start. So just to be aware of those opportunities and those resources. And that was my input. Mary?
Yeah, so one of my schools, East Jackson, is a very career focused. And when I first started there, it wasn't very college going. The students weren't noticed for applying for college or getting accepted. Nothing really happened to support that. So what I did was I made sure that students to report where they got accepted to, and I made flyers to hang up on a bulletin board because we weren't allowed to put things on their lockers. But that way, students will stop and see and get noticed. And I found that to be very successful with students telling me where they've been accepted to, and so forth. And then the year that I implemented it, sadly, was COVID and things got deterred, but I was still able to get them like an Instagram page for them with their photo and where they're going for decision day, to really get that noticed. And the school posted it on their Facebook page. Students took part in it, and it was a good turnout for East Jackson. Now, whereas Columbia Central is a college going culture, it just generally is. They have buy-in from the staff, the teachers, everyone. They get recognized for applying. They get swag for getting just applying to colleges. They get I tried to implement at East Jackson, but got denied. So at Columbia, for all the students who get their FAFSA done before March, I buy them all donuts and they get a donut. And it's just overall a great support system there with them getting recognized for what they've done and what they're going to do. So I think that's a big help. I'm not going to say giving them these swag, which is usually pencils, hand sanitizer, lanyards and stuff like that. I don't think that's a big part in why they do this. I think they do it because they get noticed. They get things on their lockers. So you'll look down, and if you have 2 in a row without things, the next week, those students will have something on their locker because they want to be noticed.
Very good. Thank you. Great point. Travis?
I can't think of like a specific example. I try to mostly figure out what the school wants to do and then just do my part to help facilitate whatever it is that they've decided. One thing that I can think of though is when a school is doing something cool, like at Western, they made the FAFSA an assignment, like this is a grade. I went to my other schools and said, this is what we're doing here. this is why I think this is awesome, and these are the results of it. When I can say, well, 70% of their students have already completed the FAFSA, which is one of the best predictors of the student enrolling in college is having a FAFSA completed. Just taking those cool things that other schools are doing, like the signs on the lockers or whatever it ends up being, because especially at some of your small schools, it's one person, it's one counselor. They might not have the time to like do these thought processes or go to conferences or whatever. So just letting them know, hey, these other schools are doing these other things, and this is why this is cool, or this is something that I think we should do, or something that we could adapt for your students. Just trying to be a support for the individuals at the school, though. How can I help them develop the culture that they're going for? So.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Sydney?
So I mean, they were going to go through this in training, but I mean, at the organizational level, I mean, it's the whole point of our job, but we do the presentations for the 4 seasons, and depending on what our school breakdown is, we'll also do presentations for the 5 career frontiers. We also do the presentations for the kids to college and pathways to preferred skilled trades. I haven't said K2C PPST for a really long time. So we do those, and we do those presentations about how great the skilled trades can be. And I want to emphasize that a lot of times, because when we do survey the students, there is always a larger percentage of them who are actually going to an actual 2 to 4 year. But most of the time when we're talking about college, we're talking about anything that they're doing after high school, which is why we are college and career advisors. So in addition to giving the college students a lot of accolades, we also want to give the students who are going to work that same credence as well. So I've done presentations specifically about soft skills and about what they need to be doing in an interview, and making sure that they look the part and have good posture, and sending thank you notes after they are interviewed to say thank you for taking the time to interview me. I have mostly Da Vinci, but just because of Northwest sheer size, I would say I have a number of students from both of those schools who are career students. So I spend time doing resumes with them. And with Da Vinci, until COVID, we were going to do the first decision day, and it was going to be a senior brunch where we were going to celebrate all of the students who just had plans in general. So helping the college culture grow at college going culture grow at high schools is such a central part of our job. But I always try to make sure not to forget those career students or even those military students, because you're still deciding to do something. You're just not going to a 2 to 4 year, and that's okay, because not everyone has to go to a 2 to 4 year. In terms of specific stuff I've done to help with that, aside from the core points of my job, which cover that so nicely, and doing extra presentations. Like I said, the interview the soft skill presentation. I made a presentation about student loans and understanding what the federal student loans are. We have done FAFSA weeks this year instead of just extra FAFSA events. So we've done hybrid weeks where they can meet with me over Zoom, or they can come into our office and they just sign up for an appointment. And then with some of those schools, they've also wanted an information session. So I also go through the FAFSA with them. And I know that's very much based on college, but that's just based on who's asking me for what kind of guidance. I did also do, what Travis said, where you're like, hey, this school is doing this, and this is something that's really cool. And that's how I got the decision day plan for last year. I didn't get as much traction with making the FAFSA an assignment, but I was able to make the college and career planning steps into assignments for Northwest, and was able to post those on their Zello along with corresponding videos that I made. And I've also contributed to what will be a countywide curriculum for to also promote college going culture. Although my piece in that was not specifically geared around college, but still. So yeah, I'm rambling. So I have anything else to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was great information. Brian?
I love that Mary's coming to us from her menagerie. These animals drifting in and out of the shot. It's great. Being that I keep kind of going toward the end, everybody says all the great stuff that I'm gonna say already, but the PPST, it's professional trades, skilled trades, pathways, but I like preferred skilled trades. I might start saying it that way. One of my favorite things to do to create the culture, and I wish we could do more of, is the K2C PPSC. And it starts with the middle school, and I wish we did more for, 9th and 10th grade. Even for 11th grade, we take them, on JOLC. But talking to those kids, one of the first time I did one of those presentations, I thought it would be a funny thing to say, so how many of you have jobs? Because they're 13 and 14 years old. And then I would tell them, why don't you have a job yet? And kind of rib them a little bit. And it kind of backfired, but created a great opportunity going forward for now how I present. I said, how many of you have jobs? And about half the kids in the room raised their hands. And so I went through and asked them, and some of them deliver papers, some of them rake yards, some of them mow lawns, some of them work with their parents who are mechanics in their garage, and they're learning these skills. And so then I talked to them about these early skills that they're developing now, and talk to them about their interests. And it really, you see kids' eyes light up when you talk to them and say, how many of you are good with your hands? How many of you like to take things apart and then put them back together, and just to figure out how they work? And they really get inspired to realize it doesn't have to be just, going on to college. Some of them have already decided, I'm not college material maybe, but convincing them that college doesn't just mean 2 to 4 year schools. It doesn't just mean university, vocational schools, trade schools. That is college. And career, and I always try to emphasize, we're college and career. So career, even if you're going directly into the workforce, developing those skills, getting to that point where you're inspired by what you do, and it doesn't matter what it is. If you have an interest in it, you can turn that into an opportunity in your life, and expanding their horizons of just how they define what college and career means to them. And so I think early awareness is a big key to getting them interested early on. But to what Mary and what Sydney were saying, just having them take that pride and see their name on something. And I developed these mock certificates for decision day that a couple schools have used. And it's just a certificate in recognition. And when a student sees their name attached to where they're going to go in life and what they want to do, they take such pride in that. And it's that kind of confirmation that, yeah, what you're doing is leading you somewhere. And eventually it's going to get you to that path that makes you happy and inspires you. So I think a lot of what we do just as the CCAC and the pieces we have in place, the JOLC, the K2C, PPST, and how we engage them in their decision day and acknowledging them and inspiring them by what their interests are. I think all of that creates a culture of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great input, Nancy.
Yeah, this is a great question to end on, and it really gives me an opportunity to brag on our amazing team, because I think that they're very humble in what they're saying, what they've been doing, and what they've done to help the college and career going culture in the schools. I mean, they're building the building blocks for when they're long gone, it'll still be there. It's interesting. Travis, when he was mentioning how one of the things that he does is he's able to go to one school and say, this is what the other school is doing. And he mentioned that part of having part of the college and career goals is it built into the classroom infrastructure for a grade, which is what we would love to do that within all of our districts, and we're working towards that. But that specific district that he was speaking on, that wasn't the case a few years ago. So that's been built, and he continues to build on that, holding virtual workshops this year, and the whole team. But what I want to speak to is just the whole team. I mean, the whole team is amazing, and whoever you are that's listening to this as an advisor, the job of advising, you want to keep your eye on the mission of what we're doing, because we really are a service related organization, and you're making a difference in people's lives. You're really assisting them in starting their futures. Sometimes in the day-to-day monotony of knowing, the tasks that you have to complete and the goals that you're trying to achieve, sometimes it can get watered down in that. But you have to keep your eye on the mission, because everything you're doing in planning and organizing and relationship building and communication is towards our mission of navigating all those students to productive careers. And so you have to keep that eye on the prize. And this team has done that, and they build a college career going culture through their workshops, through their celebrations that they've helped for Decision Day, through the new initiatives that they've created, the prototypes that they've thought through. They don't just sit back and let the school tell them what to do. They come in with a plan and a purpose, and they know the areas that they have to work on, but they also take initiatives to do new things and try new things. And that's more apparent than ever with this team. And as advisors, when you go in, you have your one-on-ones, you have your workshops, but you add value to that whole process. I think Brian spoke to it with enthusiasm, clarity, organization, communication. So all of those pieces add to the increased workshops, the increased creativity for us, for instance, to pivot to a remote virtual environment during the pandemic. You can't have that as part of a team or as an advisor unless you have that openness that this team has to new opportunity, new challenges. And so I think that this is, they spoke to the practical pieces that they're doing, but overall, all those small practical pieces, the workshops, the celebrations, the one-on-ones, the communication, the building of the curriculum, all of those pieces are small steps that help to create that broader college and career going culture. So like I said, when that college and career advisor leaves, they've built something there that they can say, okay, when the next person comes in, this is already here, so that they can now go right in that classroom. They can know what the celebration for Decision Day is. They can know what the state college bound pieces are that Dan talked about. They're building that college and career going culture during their time there through the pieces that they've been enhancing. And this team does an amazing job at that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Great information all around. This has been a really great resource. I'm sure whoever the hire is that will watch it will benefit from it greatly. Does anyone have anything they'd like to input or speak to as a closing note?
I would reiterate what Nancy was just saying. And when I began, it was a different group of advisors. But the first time, I remember one of the first times I was in a group meeting where we all sat together and spoke. And I said, from the day I walked in, I just fell in love with your guys' message, with your mission. I think you guys are great in what you do. I just love it. And they kind of made fun of me because I was speaking so emotionally about it. But when I go into a school, or when you meet with a student and they see how committed you are, that piece where you develop the trust and rapport right from the beginning. If somebody sees that you are passionate, that you believe in a mission, that you're motivated and inspired by it, it becomes this contagious sort of, I'm inspired too. And the way you talk about it, I just want to know more. And I'm now excited about my dreams. I didn't think about them in the way that you talk about them. And I didn't think about my potential in the way that you convey its attainability. I think the stronger you feel about what you do and the more sincere and genuine, it shows, and people pick up on it. They really feed off of that vibe that you give.
100% agree. 100% agree.
And I would just say, whoever the to-be advisor is, you got this. Remain focused on the student. and know that your end goal is to support them and walk hand in hand with them to assist them with their post-secondary plans, and that you know that anything after high school, any training after high school that gives you a valuable credential is going to catapult that person into a totally different, it can create generational difference. And so you can't minimize the job that you're doing. It's a huge job. And what you're doing is providing a service that is so important. And so remember to focus on that, even when it kind of, like when the day-to-day stuff gets in the way, because you obviously have to do the day-to-day pieces with planning and organizing and goal setting and all that good stuff. But keep your eye on the mission of that you're trying to support that student and know that you're making a difference.
Awesome. Yes, agreed. Well, Sydney, Travis, you both good?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, it was really informative, really great. I want to say thank you to everyone. And at this point, this will conclude the meeting.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Yeah. Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for being great listeners and awesome participants.
Our pleasure.